Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Elsie and this is
Tony,
Okay Tony, what are we talking about today?
uh, if we started to think about what we really have to talk about today, it would take us hours and hours and hours because there's so many different examples. But underlying it all, I think, is a problem that in society now we're having to accept what we can see to be incorrect, to be false, to be unscientific,
Yeah.
even, and to go along with that story, that narrative,
Yeah.
that everything is now everything is okay, and that you mustn't challenge the narrative because you're likely to be cancelled, possibly even lose your job, doxed with people turning up outside your house and screaming at you, and quite amazingly, the people who are doing that very often are the ones who argue for, and quite rightly argue for, diversity and inclusion and respect and acceptance.
Mm.
And there's one of the major sort of contradictions.
Yeah.
If we are going to argue for diversity, it's true that people on the, if you would like to call the right wing, conservative, traditionally believing Christians, whatever, do have to expand their thinking to accept people of different cultures, different religions, different genders, different approaches to sexuality. Sure, they have to accept them,
Yeah.
and they should treat them with respect. But by
Yeah.
the same token, those people in those groups, if they're going to be truly diverse, need to accept people who don't agree with them. As long as nobody is issuing death threats and violence to each other, there
Yeah.
should be debate. And if
Yeah.
one position over another emerges as the better or more accurate depiction of reality, then either side should have the wisdom and the humility to say, well, yeah, maybe we do need to adjust our framework of thought to encompass
Yes.
that.
And just listening to what you're saying, I think it's very ironic that in the 21st century we're going this way because like we've had democracy for years and
Mm.
years, and well, the main thing about democracy is like a government where you're able to express your thoughts freely.
Right.
And I think it's it really doesn't make sense that we claim to have moved from an autocratic way of living
Mm-hmm.
to saying, oh, it's a democracy, and then also saying, well, what you're saying doesn't make sense to us, so you can't say it at
So you
all.
can't see it at all. Yeah.
But especially when it's being backed by data and figures, and that's what gets me. It's quite strange that we would, and I think I'm okay with people having their own thoughts and values, and
Mm-hmm.
you can believe in whatever you want to believe in, but don't force me to
Absolutely.
follow what you believe in. And I know you say, especially when it's backed by science, but actually in our world today, not everything is backed by science. Because if you take religion, for instance, the especially the UK government,
Mm-hmm.
in the name of diversity and inclusion, actually allows everyone to have like believe in whatever religion they wanted to believe in.
Sure.
And if you take each of these religions, how many of them and their practices and whatever they do is backed by science? But in the
Mm-hmm.
name of democracy, we would
Sure.
say, yeah, you can,
You can.
even in the workplace, you can practice whatever you want to practice, as long as, like you say, as long as you're not stepping on anyone's toes, as long as you're not hurting anyone, as long as you're not,
Sure.
so it's quite strange to me that we're I do think that we're being oppressed right now, as strange as that might sound.
Really? Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So even though we say that we're like in the name of diversity
Mm-hmm.
and inclusion, I don't even know like where that
Right.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's always been tyrants through history. We can think back of sort of people whom we say, oh yeah, they were definitely, whether it's Attila the Hun or Joseph Stalin or Adolf Hitler, or whatever, the people who imposed their will on others regardless of the consequences.
Mm.
and pretty horrible consequences for millions of people.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we've now got a similar type of situation where the will of minority is being imposed on, and in the face of, as you say, whether it's the face of science or the face of tradition or the face of anything else,
Yeah.
that will being imposed on. It's not just a freedom now to worship or not worship in a particular way. It's a case of if you don't follow this, well, you're not going to be accepted. Now, I mean, we should have moved on from that from
Yeah.
hundreds of years before, when people were persecuted for being Catholics or Protestants or whatever it happened to be.
Yeah.
But no. And the reason we haven't moved on really is we've just changed one set of tyrants or one form of tyranny for another. And this one is dressed up nicely, wearing the clothes of democracy. The original sort of like the wolf in sheep's clothing, you know?
Right.
We're here. You've all got freedom. And in a way, that is true. We have got freedom. But people, for so many reasons, either not being interested, not having the time, being too busy working, too busy enjoying themselves, entertaining themselves, they
Yeah.
leave it to others who know better. Well, the people you leave it to, unfortunately, don't always have the wisdom or the care to really serve the people. That's the
Yeah.
mantra. We're here to serve. That's why I put myself forward to be president, prime minister, or whatever. I want to serve the people.
Yeah.
You really want to serve the people? Or you really want to acquire a few sort of badges yourself? That's what you
Yeah.
really want to do.
Yeah.
And in a way, there'd be more. I think I'd have more respect for somebody who said, "I tell you what, I just get off on having my fingers on the pulse, or my hands on the levers of power. I want to sort of control people."
Yeah.
Now, at least
At
when
least
you
you're being
that's
honest.
right.
Yeah.
That's right. So
Yeah.
next time we condemn any sort of dictators, I think we're going to be more. Unless, of course, the dictator is dressing up his rule, but it's the people selected me. And it's funny enough, sometimes it is perfectly true. I mean, there's no suggestion, using Adolf Hitler as an example, there's no suggestion that his election, when he was elected chancellor, was rigged. There's been talk about so many elections being rigged recently, whether in the United States, in Africa, it's endemic, all over the place. But Hitler was elected quite freely. By a literate, civilized society, he was elected. So it was the will of the people, if you like, But so there might be a good case that people should have to take some basic course in, say, politics in a way, if they want to be a part of that process. Whereas just now they're totally open to the bread and circuses stratagem of ancient Rome, that if they're promised food to eat and they're promised entertainment, well, that's fine. And then if you think, well, if that's going to be my motivation, if that man can promise me not just bread, but he can promise me jam and butter and all sorts of good things to put on the bread, and this one, and he can give me 5 circus shows a week instead of 2, well, he's going to get my vote. And that's how it's continued in so many countries for so long.
Yeah. Now, I would say that, I don't know about the rest of those watching, but for me, I really wish there was something, like, instead of only talking about it, I really wish that there was something I could do to, because just a feeling of powerlessness, because these people who, oppress us, basically, even though it's a very strong word in my eyes say.
Yeah.
They're powerful, so it's like, what can you actually do? Because you might lose your job, so you'll get cancelled.
Yeah.
So it's like, what would you suggest for people, like me, who just, young people like me, like, where do you even start? Because even amongst your friends, like, especially in the West, you express your opinion on something, and it's as if you've, said that you're about to murder someone or something, and it's just the truth. Like, you just express something about the truth, or something you think is true, backed by data and backed by science, and you would absolutely get heat for it, just because, other people have chosen a way to live their lives and even though you don't agree with it, well, you're not allowed to not agree with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like, well, how do you even, you know, not be oppressed? Like, do you
Well,
get what I mean?
It's like we put ourselves in sort of prisons of our own construction by saying, I can't say this because I might get pushback from that person. I
Yeah.
can't say, well, yeah. What happens if we assume we're not willing to pay the price?
Mm.
For everything in life, there is a price. There's something to be paid. You don't get to have a super fit body unless you put in work in the gym or whatever.
Yeah.
You don't get, So you has to be something involved.
Yeah.
But how many of us are willing to pay any kind of investment, whether it's in pain or in demotion or in struggle,
Mm.
for the cause of truth? And this is
Yeah.
this is foundational, regardless of any religion or any calling. What is real and what is not. Now, I mean, there's people who can calculate maths in a fancy way. They can show 2 plus 2 does not equal 4. Okay, but for the purpose of normal human discourse,
Yeah.
and being speciesists here, oh my God, and the adjective normal as well. I mean, people get cancelled for that.
For saying normal.
Yeah. So it's 2 and 2 do make 4. Yeah. Men are men, women are women.
Mm.
The world, the universe as we know it, without arguing as to whether evolution was part of a process of it
Yeah.
developing or not,
Yeah.
did not auto-synthesize from zero in a vacuum. It had to have something, some energy, something, whatever, which started it off. If it didn't have, and for what it's worth, that is backed by science in the sense that nothing comes from nothing.
Yeah.
There has never yet been any known effect, without a cause, ever. So, we do have science on our side in that way, where I think believers, for example, have let themselves down by attempting to get involved in the sort of the details which have not always got in the correct way. Of course, go back to the famous situation where Galileo published his, or tried to publish his research on the fact that the sun was in the center of the universe, and not the earth,
Yeah.
And no, there was a classic case of religion attempting, for other reasons, attempting to interfere, if you like, with scientific
Science.
research.
Yeah.
Okay, well, but it's certainly been a two-way street in terms of how science has
Has
tried
tried to interfere
absolutely,
with religion.
absolutely,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think have to. I forget who it was I read just said what we're suffering from. The biggest, and this is the thing that needs to be righted before we, young or old, can make a difference. We're suffering from a cowardice pandemic in the West more than anywhere else, because we're scared of being cancelled. We're scared of losing a job. Is this the only job we could ever do in the world? Are we so lacking in talent that we could never, ever, ever find another job? Is that the? I mean, if it was the if it was the difference between sheer starvation, especially if you had a family to keep, there might be a little bit more understanding, more justification.
Yeah.
But if it's the case, if I would lose that job, I would lose that. Okay, we'll get another one, as people have found all the way through, who have made a stand against any particular form of injustice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there is a price to pay. Just as if somebody decides that their calling really is to be whether it's a professional athlete or anything else, the hours and hours and hours that they have to put in and give up their social pursuits and this, that, and the next thing, all for the sake of that
Just to
dream,
be able to
which they have no
achieve that.
guarantee that it's going to work out.
Yeah.
But there is a guarantee that it will definitely not work out
If you
they
don't try.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's the same kind of thinking, I
Yeah.
think, we have to
Yeah.
put into this.
Actually, yeah, I think I've learned a lot from what you've just said, and we have come to the end of our program. But I think the main takeaway from me after asking the question, like what do we do, just and I think the main takeaway for me is be ready to pay the price.
Yeah.
whatever price that may be, because I think the other time we were talking about everyone saying that I can't do this because we need because I need to because of my children, because I need to save up, because I need this job to be able to take care of my children. And I think we were saying that the children that you're building this life for might not have a world to live in by the time they grow up if you don't stand for if you don't stand up for the things you think are right. So
I mean, a good example of someone who sort of pushed against that barrier at personal cost as well was a lady called Rosa Parks, who refused on a bus in the USA to get up and give her seat to a white traveller. She said, "No, I'm sitting here. I paid my ticket." And that's okay. There was cost for her. She was going against society. She was going against the rules. But she did, and we're all grateful to people like her for having made a stand against injustice. Or the women in this country who fought against the when the women couldn't have a vote.
So we have come to the end of our program. So be ready to pay the price, and we would like to hear from you. What are some of the things you're doing to stand up for the things you believe in? And what are some of the things you are ready to do for the things you believe in? So
and if you're not doing any of them yet, it's maybe you think about starting.
It's a good time to start. Today is a good time to start. So if you've watched to this point, we are guessing that you're enjoying the program. So kindly like, comment, subscribe,
and share.
And until next time, it's bye for now.
Wow.
If you like this video, kindly like, comment, and subscribe. You can also find us on other social media platforms, on Twitter at Talk with Tony and on Instagram at talkwithtony.live. Don't forget, live, laugh, and most importantly, love. Watch out for the next video. It's bye for now.